Good afternoon, and welcome to today's session on Proven CRM. Today I'm going to be taking us through a high-level overview of the brand new CRM system that launched back in September. We're going to be taking a look at from a perspective of how a tool like this can help streamline our sales and marketing efforts. And we're going to take a look at a couple of different areas within the system and also how they interact with the current PSA structure, as well as what's coming down the pipeline for CRM. So again, just starting out, for those of you who may be joining our sessions for the first time, all of these sessions will be recorded. The sessions, once completed, will be stored in a Dropbox available to your teams to watch remotely. We will also be muting all of the attendees. So if you do have a question, please feel free to type your question in the chat box as the session continues, and we will address as many questions as we can at the very end of today's presentation. As far as the guides, release notes, and some of the updates that are coming, they will be published in PDF documents and made available to all users via bulk mailer. So today's showcase is really just about introducing, obviously, the CRM to newcomers who don't know about Proven CRM and what it has to offer. It'll also cover all the major feature changes that we have implemented over the past 6 months. And it'll also talk about what are some of the things that we're working on moving forward, especially that are affecting our current sales and marketing teams and their behaviors based on the issues that we are seeing with COVID and how people are interacting with their relationships today. So without further ado, what we're looking at right now is Proven CRM. And when I log into Proven CRM for the very first time, the visibility levels inside the system work a little bit differently than on the job management side. The 3 security levels that we have set up in the system pertain to our 3 layers of company. So in here we have our company admin, who essentially has access over the entire system, entire visibility, all the custom fields, also has visibility over security and users. The office level in here was designed for companies who currently did not have an ability or had filled in the ability to assign salespeople to their relationships inside of PSA. And if we look really quickly inside of our relationships on the job management side, you will see there's a salesperson field that's available at both the company level and the contact level. This is how we define in the CRM who owns the relationship. So you're going to hear me use the phrase who owns the relationship, who gets the credit. This type of information allows us to now pull statistics in the system for an individual rep or team, depending on who they own from a relationship perspective. The last layer of visibility that we have is called the user layer. And this is typically set up that for teams that have already defined that accountability layer and really only want to see statistics that pertain to them as an individual user, by coming in here and setting their security profile to user, when they log in, all the statistics that we see on our dashboard, on our reports, are all going to be set to that user security privilege. So you can see even in my reports section, it lists the type of security privilege that I have so that I understand the visibility that I'm looking at when I navigate throughout the system. Once we've established who owns the relationship, the next big question that we have on the CRM is who gets the credit as far as how those relationship credits are defined. So again, in the CRM, because we link into the job management system in real time, when a brand new job is set up and established, the information that we list from a referral perspective allows us to see in the CRM who gets credit for that information. So in here, we look at our jobs list inside of the CRM, and I can see in here who's been listed to get credit for this job based on our referral information. Who owns the office, who owns the contact, and therefore it'll help us to determine where the credit is going inside the CRM. And so a lot of the reports and the screens that we manage inside the CRM system are all based on those two statistics. Who do you own, and what credit have you been given based on those predefined relationships? Now, over this last little bit, we've also been kind of asking ourselves, how do we measure or manage our salesperson or our reps' performance? So there are a number of different metrics that we can take a look at inside the CRM, but some of the things that we've been developing over this last little bit have a lot to do with the activities that they enter within the system. So for those of you who are not familiar with how activities get entered at the salesperson level, we use the note topics in the system to determine our different marketing activities. So you can see inside of my demonstration database, aside from all of the log note topics that I have for the job management side, I have a specific series of topics that are defined for my salespeople to enter. And based on the type of activity that this is, we get two separate statistics that are made available to us in the CRM. And so the way we distinguish the difference between those is based on what we call days since last activity and days since last note. Because on the CRM side, we believe that there's a big difference between picking up the phone and leaving somebody a voicemail versus how many days it's been since we physically saw that individual. And so those are the difference between those two statistics. It's up to the company level to then determine under the definition which of those approved note topics will reset the days since last activity. So in my demo database, I've marked off my face-to-face meetings, my gift drop-off, my lunch and learns, and I also have my route notes selected as well. So if I'm doing any sort of face-to-face activities or interactions, I now have the ability to monitor those approved activity types in the system. Now, for those of you who weren't able to participate in this month's Lunch and Learn, one of the things we showcased as a new function that was released this month was the ability for us to come into our reports and comparatively see what our teams were doing for a specific period of time. So if I come in here and I select my marketing topics, I can tell you, based on a specific period of time, how many of those marketing topics were entered in the last 7 days for each of my reps. How many calls they made, how many messages they left, how many face-to-face meeting, gift drop-off, lunch and learn, and it gives us comparative statistics. So if I say, show me what they did the last 90 days, I can now comparatively see what they're entering in the system. And if I want to come in here and take a look at that in a detailed perspective, I can just run my contact notes by individual salesperson, and it will give me the ability to come in here and take a look at all the notes that Ryan entered for the last 7 days. And of course, if I want to come in here and group those, the grids that we have inside of the CRM system allow me to take the information that I'm looking at and group by any criteria that I want. So if I wanted to print this report off to Excel or PDF or Word, I have the functionality to come in here and dissect that information before I dump it out of the system through the exports. Now, the next thing that we talk about from a perspective of how we measure this information, again, relates to how we can put together which clients we need to see based on all the statistics that are coming in. So we use a ranking system inside of the CRM that'll basically allow me to organize my list based on my top client all the way down to what we call our untapped resources. And these statistics are simply based on referral information. So I can come in here and see how many jobs were referred to us from this client this month, this quarter, year to date. I can see how many days it's been since the last referral. I can come in here and see the average days between referrals. And if I want to see a job history on every job that was not only referred by this company, but also by association, I can come in here and take a look at every job that AAA gave us over the period of, let's say, this month. And I can see that even though the statistic shows me that they have 2 jobs in the list, only one of them were they listed as the referrer. The other one they were just associated to in the system. So these statistics allow us to, in real time, start to measure what kind of volume we're getting from these clients. And I always get a quick overview here at the top to say, how many jobs have they referred to us? What are the contract values? What's our sold to loss ratio? How much did we spend to get this relationship? And what did they actually generate revenue to date for this particular office? And those same statistics can also be measured at the contact level. And for those of you who are already on the CRM, one of the things that we just added this week is the ability now to see history on the contact level. So if I want to know every single job that was referred to us by a specific agent, I can come in here and take a look at any jobs that came in for this particular time period. And I can look at what the volume was, both by dollar and by number of claim. And keep in mind that these statistics not only show me how many jobs were referred by Trish Oakes, but if I listed Trish Oakes as the associated agent on a job, but they weren't the referral source, it will still show me on the list all the jobs where Trish Oak was just associated to the work, but was not listed as the referrer. So in here, if I look at those statistics, I can measure who are my, again, from a star perspective, who are my 4-star clients, my 3-star clients. Again, all this is based on job volume. And then if I want to come in here and based on the last time I reached out to them, I can say, show me in here if I haven't reached out to a client in over 7 days. And so in here, it'll show me all the clients that I haven't spoken to that I manage that have been greater than 6 days since I last touched them. And I can use this statistic both at the organization level and at the contact level if I want to come in here and say how long has it been since that last note was entered, or since that last activity was entered. Show me how long it's been since we had our last face-to-face. Anyone over 6 days, I want them to show up on my list. I can now start to go back through that, and I can start to put a route together where I'm going to now refocus my attention on these specific clients to make sure that we don't lose touch with them. Now, again, depending on how many people you're managing in your portfolio, we could have, I've seen salespeople that own thousands of contacts and thousands of offices. So it makes it very difficult for that salesperson to know, how am I going to reach out to all 1,000 of those contacts every week or month? What is the expectation? And so in the system, we also have the ability to launch what's called an inactivity alert, which again is just a way of us to streamline what information my salesperson needs to pay attention to. So one of the things I'm going to bring up right now is our inactivity alerts. So in here, if I go into my definition section, you'll see here at the top, alerts and notifications allow us to break down to dashboard alerts, pop-up alerts that come into the system, and email alerts. And these can affect when a job comes in where I'm getting credit, I can be notified. When an organization or contact gets updated, I can be notified. And originally, when we first did the notification system, we were sending out notifications, one notification per organization and contact. And you can imagine, I'm sure some of you who are on the call today probably got hammered with a bunch of emails. And so we quickly made the decision to change how notifications came out, so they now come as a form of reports in the system that will tell me as a consolidated total, here's all the companies and contacts you haven't seen in a specific period of time. And you'll get one report for the organization level, and you'll get one report for the contact level. And it will only go to the person who's assigned from an accountability perspective. So if you're the salesperson on this job, you will get your own inactivity report that says, here are the people you haven't reached out to in this much time. You should follow up with them. And so it just gives us a way to kind of visualize this information and better organize and prioritize our time based on those statistics. Now, one of the things I wanted to focus on today, at least for our session and showcase, is really talking about what can the CRM do for our team remotely when we're trying to organize and manage relationships through this period of COVID, where most of our routes have stopped. And certainly for those of you who have seen the system, I'm not going to cover the route management system today, but there is a full route management system in here that allows us to track all of our stops and allows us to text message those to our device. We covered that in our Lunch and Learn. So those of you who haven't seen it or would like to get information on the routes, there's a video and guide that you can watch on those specific items. But the areas that I wanted to focus on, at least for today's presentation, relate to the other forms of communication that we have in the system and how we manage them. So from a salesperson perspective, when we're not out seeing people or interacting face-to-face with these relationships, we spend a lot of time communicating via phone, via email, via text message. And so inside the CRM, we can integrate your inbox into the CRM. So in my case, I'm running 365. And anytime I get an email in the system from one of my clients, anytime I get an email, a communication that we had with an agent or adjuster, it takes those details and it automatically logs them underneath that individual's personal inbox. So Ryan Pritchard, he exists within our system. When I come into his activities, rather than try and scroll through an inbox of 50 different emails, I can come to his own personal inbox and I can come in here and see all the information that's being sunk into the CRM through my email. Now, granted, in here, if I don't want to share those details with the rest of the CRM team, I can actually come in here and ask it to exclude my email activity so that only I can see my email communication in the system. None of my other staff will be able to see it. And in here, I can see any incoming or outgoing emails that have come from anyone in our team. And when I directly go into that contact or organization, all my emails will be filtered and sorted for me without me having to do anything additional. And one of the things that we added in the system that I'm going to talk about that was just a recent update that we did was, again, this idea of coming in here and putting in our activities. The amount of typing that happens, especially on the sales and marketing team where we're typing the same message or follow-up. We've created a number of different opportunities in here where if I want to come in and create email templates, I can come in here and predefine, much like the log note templates inside of the job management system, what I want that communication to be. And I can also do that from our notes perspective now. So in here, I created a sample note template that we set up. When I go into my contact, let's say I want to go and say I followed up with Trish Oakes, I can now come into our activity. I can go into the notes section, create a new record, and rather than key all that information in, I simply select from my follow-up template. I go in, put in Trish's name, and I can now send this message directly out to Trish. I can either send this out as just a note that I'm putting into the system, or I can come in here and have it sent out as an email directly to Trish herself. And once I have that communication set up in the system, if I decide that I want to take this note or another note that I'm putting in and apply that same note to 50 other contacts, I simply toggle the multiple entity and hit save, and it allows me to apply that same note to any other organization or contact in the database, so I don't have to go and retype that 5, 6, 10, 50, 100 times in the system to get my activities logged and up to date. One of the other things, again, from the email perspective that we have in the CRM has to do with our bulk mailing integration. So in this morning's session, we talked about new integrations, specifically on the CRM side, that allows us to come in here, and if I wanted to come in and take a look at the integrations that I have set up, I'm going to come in here and click on my Ryan campaign. You can see here I have it connected to my MailChimp account. So when I want to go in and do email blasts to our clients, it actually links directly to our MailChimp audience list. So I can either pull from the existing audience list that I have in MailChimp, or I can then dump my current organizations and contacts out of the CRM and create a new audience list in the system. And so all of these things that we've been developing on the CRM side, it's about trying to become more efficient and more effective, even though our volumes have increased. So in here, if I wanted to go in and take a look at our dashboard, when we talk about things like emails, phone calls, I can come in here and also track my activities in the system. If I wanted to see when the last time I stopped at a client's site was, I can break down my sites based on geographical location. And I can also come into the system and import our leads in here as well. So one of the things that people have been asking for, certainly on the job management side and on the CRM side, is that if I have a group of clients that I'm managing that I want to have import into the system but not be inside of the job management system, I can now import my lead organizations and my lead contacts, where I can be logging activities against these individuals in the system until they become a client who's referring us work or giving us jobs, at which point I can convert them into an organization or a contact, so that I now have the ability to continue where I left off for those opportunities. Now in here as well, on the reporting side, we just overhauled a lot of the major reports that we have in the CRM. And one of the things that, again, we really wanted to focus on from a CRM perspective is this idea of data integrity. So in here under our audit reports, we can see that this will actually show us in here any organization or contact that's missing a salesperson or an accountability factor that would be managing that relationship. I also have the ability in here to see which jobs are missing salesperson assignment. So again, in the system, if I have a number of jobs that have come in where we're not getting credit on the CRM side, I can determine where I need to reassign or where I need to give credit that hasn't been assigned in the system. And I can also come in here and take a look at jobs missing referrals, or even critical data that's missing on our contact records. And again, the reason that this information is important is because if we're missing an address, Google can't find them when we go to do our routes in the system. If we're missing a phone number, I can't call them from my smartphone when I'm on the way down there to do a stop by or a route visit. And if I don't have a proper email address, I can't bulk mail to them. I can't send them mails through my inbox. So it limits our communication channels inside the CRM if I don't have this information up to date and correct. Now, as far as items that we are working on and coming into our pipeline, so in here, I'm going to include the release notes. Obviously, we didn't touch on all of these in today's presentation, but I will tell you that since launch, we've implemented over 400 changes in the CRM. And this is just a summarized list of what we've actually updated in the system. As far as what's coming, we talked already about the note templates. That's actually already in the system and ready to go. It's in the live system today. One of the additional things that just recently came up and has been actually a big request, even back in the accounting system of the desktop, is a history tab. And what I mean by history tab is that in the CRM, and this is something that we're planning on launching within the next week or so, we are going to have a full audit trail that is available at every company and every contact level so that I can see who in my company changed information on our relationships. This could be as simple as a phone number. So in here, it tells me what the phone number was before they changed it and what they changed it to. I can see if they added an address, if they added an email. A lot of times we'll have customers that come back to me and say, you know, Ryan, I could have sworn I saved or updated this record, but it's not in the system. As an end user, you can now go into the audit trail and see when that record was last updated, who saved it, and what changes they made before they saved it. So this gives us now complete visibility on every organization and every contact in the system. Even if the change is made on the desktop or in the web, this audit trail will pick it up. It may not give us a specific user's name. So for things that are changed in the desktop, we get a sync system update for the user, but it will tell us the date and time of what was changed. Now, one of the things, again, we wanted to talk about is how COVID is affecting our sales teams and what, on the CRM side, we're doing to combat that for our CRM customers. So in here, we are now going to be launching an integrated SMS system that allows your sales teams to be remotely communicating through text messages directly in the system. And this is just phase one of what we're going to be implementing in the CRM itself. So even though right now it's only going to be with internal staff, the plan is we want you to be able to track your communications with your agents, your adjusters, your property management groups, where if you're going to be communicating via text message, it will store and track those communications against the organization and contact in the system. And of course, everyone's been asking about the move to mobile. So right now, in the interim, we have our first edition of Proven CRM Mobile, which right now handles the setup of routes. So this is a live screen of a mobile device that basically has route information sent to it. It integrates to Google Maps. So as we go to make stops in the system, it will actually let us know stop by stop driving instructions on how to get there. And as I mentioned, from a phone number or an email and address perspective, it'll give us their address. It'll let us call them directly from the app if we want to call while we're on the way to that stop. And we can enter our route notes directly from our phones back into the system as a route note. So it'll tell my rep when they last talked to that person, what was said, and when that update occurred. And what we want to add moving forward in 2020 is the ability to receive things like alerts, notices, have our reps be able to look up a contact while they're out in the field, see who's close, who's in the area. We want to look at sales activities, notes, calls, emails, so I can track those activities while I'm out in the field. And of course, one of the big requests we've been getting is to also be able to scan business cards. So if we identify a new agent or rep in the system, I'll be able to go in and take a look at who sent us that message and be able to add that contact or organization into the system if they don't already exist. And if they do, we actually have inside of the CRM system right now, it'll actually tell us in here if I tried to create another organization with the exact same name, ABC Development. It'll actually warn me if it finds a matching phone number, email, name, or address to try and eliminate the possibility of someone accidentally creating a duplicate. So these types of things have been implemented and are available inside the system to help keep the authenticity of the data, keep it consistent, keep it clean, and keep it accurate. Now, I know I've run short on time for our presentation, so I'm going to quickly jump into the chat box. I have 4 messages in here that I will try and address. So the first message is, does this integrate with Constant Contact as well? So right now, the 2 mailing systems that we integrate with are MailChimp and MailGun. Constant Contact has not been one that at least any of the current CRM users are currently using, but certainly it's something that we can take a look at. If Constant Contact has an API like MailChimp, we can take a look at possibly creating some sort of tie to that. In here, we have a question about what is onboarding timeline. I know it has been 2 to 3 months in the past. So as far as the actual implementation, the CRM implementation can happen within a 3 to 4 week period. Now, based on the current pipeline that we have for onboarding, we are booking right now into go live dates for June. So we're only about 4 weeks, roughly, because next week is May, so we're about 4 to 5 weeks out. But certainly, if we needed to squeeze somebody in, feel free to shoot me a message if you're interested in taking a look. I'd be happy to see what we can do for you on the timelines. Question from Todd is, currently we are using Luxor. Will our data transfer into PSA? So to answer that question, on the CRM side, we get almost everything from Luxor already in our current sync, except for your own by field in Luxor, your activities, and any custom fields. So part of our implementation process would be to help migrate those 3 things over into Proven CRM. So yes, we have customers that have come and transitioned from Luxor, and we've been able to bring and link all their data directly into the system. I got a couple more messages here about using Constant Contact. Again, if there's a big enough demand, we can certainly look into it and see if it's something that that we can build into the system for future development. Jay writes, does the email feature in the CRM format in HTML, where the job management seems to send and receive replies, job notes in plain text with no breaks? So right now it is formatting. If we go back into the CRM, all the emails that we get, at least from the inbox perspective, you'll see they're all formatted with images and links. So it is coming across to us in HTML with proper page breaks and replies to go in and take a look at all the communications from an email perspective. Yes, yes. So the short answer is yes, HTML and text is supported. Any other questions on the CRM? And if there is, I'm just going to do a quick wrap up while you type your questions. For those of you who are maybe seeing the CRM for the first time, I didn't go through obviously everything in today's presentation. I really just highlighted a lot of the newer things that we're working on. If you want to take a look at some of the more introductory videos, there are a number of videos that are on our video library. We've done a couple lunch and learns on CRM, or you're welcome to send us a request and we can set up a demo to take you through the full CRM system. Are there plans for formatting HTML in the job management notes? Yes. Actually, that's been on our list for some time now, not only for being able to receive, but also for being able to send notes in an HTML format with images and links. Unfortunately, I don't have a timeline for when that will be released, but I can certainly check with our dev team at the end to give you that information. Yeah, so again, the comment that came in, if you use CRM, does it matter? And the answer is that what Jay is asking about is the communications that come across in the job log notes, not necessarily the relationship ones. So although we do get the notes that come back in under the job side, they would be formatted probably in the exact same way that you see them currently in the job management side. All right. Well, I'm just getting the 10-minute warning. So if there are no more questions, let me just go back to my PowerPoint. I did want to thank you guys so much for participating in today's presentation. Certainly, if there are any questions or if you need additional information, you can reach out to our sales team, either toll-free or via email. We'd be happy to answer any questions for you. Our next session will be focusing on the timesheets and approvals, and that will be starting at 2:30 Eastern Time, which is in approximately 8 minutes. So thank you again for your time, everyone. Appreciate it, and look forward to showcasing some of the newer things moving forward.